Hey, welcome to another Drone Brews. This time it's not on a Wednesday. We're making a special amendment to our schedule. And if we're trumping on other shows, well, honestly, who gives a shit? Because it's Drone Brews and we have Randall Warnas joining us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and bring him in really quickly. Just giving you guys a heads up. I'm not going to be paying attention to the chat too terribly much. I'm going to try to be more focusing on the conversation because I think that's all why you're here. But then towards the end, we'll start taking questions and we'll pay attention to the chat just so it doesn't detract from the whole thing. With that being said, let me go ahead and bring Randall into the stream. What's going on, buddy?
What up? Not much, man. Glad that you were willing to move the schedule around a bit to make this happen. I appreciate you.
Was there another option?
Tomorrow I'm on an airplane at this time, so yeah,
well,
that was the issue.
Work. That wouldn't work.
Hey, but we did talk about the toilet roll flush.
We did talk about the toilet roll, which I expect
doing
video
that tomorrow. Yeah, for sure. It's an IOU.
Exactly. There you go. I want video of that. So because you come from a background of primarily, the commercial space, sort of unknown to a lot of my viewers, because I consider a lot of my viewers more, recreational hobbyist pilots, which there's still a huge market for hobbyists, right? Without hobbyists, you don't really get the hype around a brand, which that's what we're hoping is going to happen here, is hype around the brand. Tell them a little bit about your background in I don't know, under a minute. Can you do that?
Watch how fast I'll do this.
Let's fucking do it.
In 2014, I was I was in the intelligence space, just finished grad school, started the first drone retail store in Las Vegas, Nevada in June of 2014. First brick and mortar store. So people are flying from all over the world coming to check out drones in a face-to-face interaction. Fast forward 14 months, we had 15 locations. We were doing a decent amount of money, mostly DJI stuff, all hitting the hobbyists, all hitting those early adopters. And DJI reached out, said, hey, come and join us and start our retail efforts. And when I showed up in Shenzhen in October 2015, they said, never mind, we want to start DJI Enterprise. So myself, 3 colleagues in China started and laid the groundwork for DJI Enterprise, taking that toy or prosumer product into a tool that could be used in the workplace. Worked with probably 100 Fortune 500 companies, hundreds of public safety entities, really finding out what they need. And a lot of those guys were hobbyists saying, I have this drone, what can I do in my workplace? So it still was connected to that space. And then when I left DJI for FLIR in 2017. I was there for 4 years, running their global drone stuff with putting aerial thermal imaging on the map. So now it seems like every drone manufacturer has a thermal drone that they put out. That's largely the work that I was doing between 2015 and 2021. And I have been the CEO of Autel Robotics for 4 whole weeks, and that's
And what a
my
whirlwind
grind.
it's been. Yeah,
Hell
what a
yeah.
whirlwind. Are you tired yet?
I don't get tired. I think that that's the beauty of it. That's why I'm in this spot. Is like, Autel Robotics is a Chinese manufacturer that's trying to do better than other Chinese manufacturers while keeping costs low, keeping their products quality high, and so my workday ends at 5 p.m. so to speak, and then it starts again at 6 when China's getting into the office. So you can't be tired, or else you're in the wrong place.
So that was one of the questions I had for you is, talking about, the fact that Autel is essentially, it's a Chinese origin company. It's, a lot of people had this perception that it was American based, and maybe that's just the perception that most have based upon how the customer service was represented, in previous, I guess regimes, I guess. I don't know. Previous marketing, we'll call it. What the hell are you drinking?
That's a whole story. You finish your question.
All right.
I'll
We're
share
going
the
to come
drink.
back to that. I just caught that out of the corner of my eye, but we're going to come back to that. So
Yeah.
previous regimes, they really boasted this American-based customer support, and I think it gave the perception that Autel was an American-based company. Which let me be clear: there's nothing wrong with a Chinese-based company at all. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't understand really the phobia around that as of late. I don't care as long as somebody makes a good product. That's all I care about. But you're trying to do better than obviously the competition. I'm assuming that is all the way around the boards, according, human rights, assembly, the whole thing, correct?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, when we think about Autel Robotics, since 2016, when I first was in a DJI booth, standing across from an Autel booth, it was an orange Phantom, and everything felt like it was just kind of a copycat of DJI.
Right. I agree with you.
And that was my perception of Autel for a really long time. It wasn't until more recently when I looked at the technology that they're starting to be this like branching away from what DJI does. But DJI does things really, 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 and if I didn't say enough reallys, really well. They are the huge, drone company that everyone looks at. So they have all of this scrutiny. And because all of this scrutiny, people are very aware that DJI is based in China. Even though their product functions like an iPhone, you still look at a Mavic and you're like, oh, it's a Chinese drone. Well, it just so happens that that Chinese drone has been flown by millions of pilots, has had very few instances, and is extremely high in quality. The user experience is good. So to me, like you said, Chinese technology is not bad. What's bad is cybersecurity concerns. Now, are there cybersecurity concerns about DJI that are factual? Potentially. I'm not the guy that did that
Right.
validation, but I think that there are some organizations that have had a really hard time pinning DJI for cybersecurity concerns. So instead, they raise human rights violations. Now, those are mostly on the manufacturing side, and I don't really know all the details. I have assumptions. I've talked about my assumptions of what those are, but DJI can clean up their act and still be the enemy, no matter what. No matter
Right.
how clean their stuff is, people are going to want to see them fail. So what's cool is that we as drone users still want technology at a low price with a high quality of output, user experience, and high quality materials. And so what Autel Robotics is a company that has engineers sitting their butts in seats in Shenzhen. You don't need to care about that as long as we do everything on our side to support you, to prove that it's cyber secure, to prove that the products are actually fulfilling the needs of the end user. If you just don't like China, if you're just that's how you lean, I guess
There's
that's
nothing
no
you're going to
problem.
do to prevent that.
However, we are still trying to put Autel technology on the Blue SUS list to scrub ourselves of whatever makes us a foreign manufacturer and make it American enough that it can be procured by federal governments and make it so that it has this staying power within the industry. If Parrot can do it with the Anafi,
Yeah.
we can do it with the Evo. So it's not like we're stopping and just saying, accept us for who we are. We're going to take it a step further And I think that my position being in the CEO role is being very public facing and saying that over and over and over. Hold us to a higher standard. We are a Chinese manufacturer. We do have technology that is really, really great. Give us a chance. If you have a problem, tell me what the problem is. Let me go and try to solve it. So we're going to be working down the path of truly becoming a US manufactured product that just happens to have ideas that were taken from another country.
So I guess that's a holy shit, a lot of information right there.
Hey,
But I appreciate the candidness in the response because that's a tough question for anybody to get. I understand, like you said, you've been in this role for 4 weeks, and you sort of got thrusted into a situation where there was sort of already fires burning that I feel like you've been sort of probably running around trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I do first? You've got a whole sort of, and I'm going to go there. This is sort of a shit show in a sense with the V1, V2 chipsets. You had to essentially type this letter out. And I've read so many comments, basically being like, this Randall guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And I'm thinking, well, wait a second. This was in the pipe long before he even assumed the role. So, talk to me a little bit about this, as transparent as you want to be. I'll whatever you want to say, but what's the deal with this V1, V2? Because you got a lot of people that are like, well, I want the smart controller, but I have the first generation drone. And if I buy the RC, is it going to be future proof? I mean, is it going to work with anything else? Or am I out $1,200 on something that's essentially going to be a brick, for a lack of better words?
Right. So yeah, chip change was not my decision. It wasn't like, hey, Randall, on day 2, what do you think? Should we change chips? And I was like, hell yeah, let's change some chips. That was already going to happen. Now the reason that it's happening is for what I was talking about, which is preserving our ability to stay, in the US market and beyond, and be a reliable manufacturer and supplier of drone products into this country for the indefinite future. The
Gotcha.
chips that we are changing out are manufactured by ZTE. ZTE is on the Department of Commerce controlled products list, or the blacklist, right? So to be NDAA compliant, you can't have ZTE chips. Well, it just so happens that at the same time when you can't even buy them because of the chip shortage, you might as well say, now's as good a time as any to change these chips out so that we have a consistent supply chain, that we can continue to manufacture products that people are asking for, and that we can move down the path of NDAA compliance so that there's not going to be any more geopolitical craziness that keeps you from flying, buying, create or building programs based off of Evos and other Autel products. So is it a pain? For sure. What I have said publicly, and will say publicly to all the users here that are probably going to be the most fervor-filled users of Autel products that I've said this to publicly, if you buy a smart controller V1 and the V2 smart controller works with a product that you want to buy in the future, it's on me. As long as I'm here, I'll take care of you. You can hit me up directly, Randall at autelrobotics.com, and you say, hey, I have a V1 controller and the V2 works with this future product and I want a smart controller that works with that. I got you. Straight up.
Holy shit. Okay. Well, damn.
I mean, put that shit to bed, right? Like, is it a problem? Yeah. Is it annoying? Hell yeah. If you were the guy starting here June 1st and had the same problem, would you come to the same conclusion? Probably. Like, it's already down the tracks.
But that's the problem I see with a lot of companies. We're so willing to step over dollars to pick up pennies in a sense, right? You've got a customer is once, and I hate to bring up DJI, but what they do better than any other company is they basically consume a user in their ecosystem. Once a user has DJI, they're going to buy Care Refresh. They're going to buy their other accessories, and their chances are they're going to upgrade to the next, drug of choice, which whatever they bring out at that point, they're going to end up purchasing. So they really pull them in. And, I'm not saying Autel's a one-trick pony, but there's been a lot of issues in the past that have prevented people from wanted to jump on that orange train ride. It's, obviously the release date issues have been always something that's plagued. Like I always compare Autel to that, Fast and the Furious 1, where Dom and he's racing and he just hits the NOS a little bit too soon. It's like, you just show all your cards and then all of a sudden everybody wants that drone.
Yeah.
but there's no supply to actually provide that drone to an end user. And then you're like, well, it's going to be this date, this date. I mean, the reality is it always ends up releasing. It's just way after the fact. Is this something that you're looking at in the future and saying, hey, we've missed a shit ton of release dates. We have to get better because if we commit to a time, end users are going to hold us to that. The reality is you have dealers all across the country that take pre-orders, which in turn, people are, 100, 300, 400 bucks essentially sitting out there, sometimes for 3-4 months. Not everybody's got that money to sort of let sit. What's your take on that?
You gave me a ton, right? In one question, you gave me a ton to
I
talk
fucked you
about.
up right there.
So first thing I want to do is ask you what drone company hasn't done that. Skydio released a product and didn't ship for almost 2 years. Now we're talking Autel Robotics is not that big. It recently was announced and publicly put out that Autel is the number 2 drone manufacturer, but
that's fair.
It's not DJI. And how many times has DJI launched a product that they didn't ship within 3 months, 4 months? It's definitely happened.
Do you think it would be better to take like take a public pre-order and say, hey, listen, we're taking a public pre-order so we can gauge supply and demand? Do you think that would be a better approach?
No, I think it's the wrong approach. So I'm not saying that the issues have been justified. I'm saying that when you're in this drone space and you have such hardcore competition from DJI, and you have something novel, the desperation, and this is all drone companies, the desperation to put out your shiny thing to start trying to pull away market share to get some sort of buzz. If DJI has a lull in their product announcements, there were people sitting in my seat and probably, collaboratively with their teams where they said, yeah, let's do this now. We have a trade show coming up. We have Commercial UAV Expo. We have CES. We want to launch something. And so let's do it regardless of its readiness. What has happened is that with the intention of shipping within, let's say, I believe in a 4-week ship time from when you announce something, but let's say that it's 8. Let's say that there's a team that says we're going to give it 8 weeks and then we'll be ready to ship. If in 8 weeks that product is not ready, if in 8 weeks that product still has bugs, you, the user, do not want us to ship it. So because Autel has been careful to not GoPro themselves, can you really blame that people don't want to put out technology that has this amount of focus as well as this amount of issue if something goes wrong?
And I agree with you there. I think that in previous management decisions, they would just go ghost. They would go quiet. And then people would be like, okay, what's going on? They didn't know. And then of course you've got, influencers like myself and others, they would start, piecing things together and they would deliver that information when reality is the only people that need to deliver that information is you guys. You were the ones that need to deliver that information. Now, again, it's not you specifically, but this is just what's happened in the past.
It is
that
now.
People are sort of like, they're what the fuck moments to a consumer. Just give us something, a breadcrumb.
And I think that I've asked this question over the last 4 weeks of my short tenure. Name another CEO that manufactures drones that gets in front of people. Frank Wong of DJI doesn't. Adam Bree has a bunch of people around him at Skydio. He is not the one that's coming out and talking. Henri Seydoux from Parrot.
Yeah.
When have you heard him talk?
I've never. I've talked to Adam before, but Adam is. I like Adam. He's a nice guy, but you 100%. Have people. You have people, and then you have Adam that is looking at things at such a higher elevation. That doesn't necessarily understand what the consumer would want, but he's such at a high.
Right. But my point in all of this is that you give me an opportunity to not only interact with the users, and I do have shit that I do all day long. But when that chip shortage thing came out and I put my email on Autel pilots, you better believe I had more than 100 things that I wrote multiple paragraphs back to be like, yo, this is what I'm doing.
I'm sure you had.
It's the right thing to do. So what I'm trying to do is rather than release products early and, that's how we win, what about we win because we're actually first of all, a cool ass company that has good people, that has good technology, that's treating you differently than any drone manufacturer out there. I want to win on the basic principles of good business rather than shiny new feature that doesn't even work correctly or doesn't even have a real utilization or application. It's just like, oh, you can do this thing. We pushed it out to the market as a selling feature when really nobody needs that. I'd rather be the guy to say drones are doing a lot of stuff right now, like a lot of really meaningful things. On the consumer side, tell me that you need beyond 6K, 8K, 20 megapixel stuff. Do you? I don't know. I don't think so. Not today.
Right.
But then there's like distractions to me, and I've said this about Skydio, that the autonomy that they put out has set a new benchmark that people are so distracted by. They think that they need this real-time smart mission or flight planner that can follow you through trees while you're riding a bike. Do you need that? And is that the best thing for our industry right now when we're trying to get mass adoption and we don't need more mishaps? We don't need people to think that that's like the best place to put our technology. It's cool. It's a benchmark now, and now everyone has to do it. But is that really what users want, or do they just want reliable support, reliable supply chain companies that come forward and tell you, hey, it's going to be 6 weeks before you're going to get your smart controller, and be straight up about it? Like, we could have said nothing about the chip change and just been like, what are you talking about? That's what other
Right.
companies do.
Right. And I feel it's pretty transparent. You guys said, what, 500 units are being produced of the V1.
Mhm.
Do you have a rough guesstimate about how many V1 Evos are actually in consumer hands?
No clue.
No clue. So, I mean, the
More than
reality
that.
is probably so. I mean, it's just whether or not somebody actually needs that application is going to be whether or not they purchase it. I think, and I'll just say it here because I'm going to say it in my video. I don't think the average hobbyist really needs that smart controller. I don't think so. It's big. I mean, it's a big bitch. It's huge. I mean, but it feels good. It feels good in the hand. That just came out wrong. It feels good, but it's not something like, as a hobbyist, if I'm spending, $1,600 on a unit, that I would say, okay, let me buy that too. Maybe, I don't know. I guess if I got, shitty vision, yeah, and that's my best option. But I guess it also brings me to the software perspective. Are you also looking at like the software? Because I feel like nothing's really changed since the original inception of Autel Explorer. It's sort of clunky. It's a little dated in the overall way it operates. It's gotten better, but it could be so much more. Are you thinking to yourself now, like, all right, what's the easiest thing to change? And firmware and software are the things that, essentially it costs you development dollars, but it's not physical hardware. It's not physical hardware. Do you feel like that's the easiest place to start, is looking at software?
I think the easiest place to start is not that, just because we have
Okay,
to.
fair enough.
Well, and the reason is that we have to get to the standard that we're wanting to hold to going forward, which I think the NDAA compliance, the Blue SUAS stuff, the Made in the USA, like that's really important for us right now. If you were a influencer in the Chinese market asking about these things that don't have these geopolitical pressures, there's nothing to really change. Their focus is not the same as ours. What
Right.
we want is to be able to be a manufacturer that is a true competitor to DJI and causes DJI to start acting differently. They comprise 80% of our market share in drone technology, but literally like 100% of the reason people build things in drones. Software, add-ons, that's all driven by the DJI marketplace. But when you try to partner with DJI, it's like nearly impossible. People do it and then they Pix4D or Drone Deploy partners with DJI for years, and then DJI puts out DJI Terra. DJI partners with MicaSense and Slant Range on multispectral cameras, and they put out their own multispectral Phantom. It's like DJI is not necessarily somebody that you build or you hitch your wagon to long term.
You don't build
If you are
long-term relationships with them.
correct. And so what I'm trying to do is be like, we want to build long-term relationships with companies so that we have staying power, so that we're not the blip on the radar that comes in and is a 5 to 10% market share holder like we are right now and then disappears because DJI squashes us. We want to build it on solid foundation. If we're just solely trying to up the feature set of previous generation products and try to make it so that everyone with an Evo or an Evo 2 is warm and fuzzy about like the things that they can do, but usually these new features are not like the most necessary. Like dealing with a
Right.
clunky app sucks, but if that's what we're focusing on rather than getting to the standard that we need for drone technology today, I think that that's a misallocation of our resources. And I think that if you or most of the listeners were in my shoes and you're like, how do we really tackle the problems of today for Autel to be a significant player in the drone space in the future, it wouldn't necessarily be looking backwards.
Gotcha. No, and then that makes good sense. I mean, I think, as end users, they get comfortable in whatever it is they're flying. Like I think a lot of people that buy an Autel, they started out with the DJI product, and
Probably, yeah.
they discover the Evo, or maybe some came from an X-Star, and they say, wow, well, this is great. We don't have to deal with certain restrictions. We can still be responsible, but we don't have to deal with those restrictions. There's nobody telling us that we have to abide by this, and in critical scenarios where somebody's using it for work and they can't because of the software. I think that's where a lot of people come from with that. But I mean, there's certain features, like I see it all the time. Like people ask about the waypoints, the mission. It's all these little critical things that maybe DJI does differently, and that's why I asked that question specifically, just because I see that question come up so often. So I want to know, as far as a standpoint, is it software that you felt was easier, or is it fixing sort of the customer service deals and just the overall experience that customers get from purchasing Autel?
When I joined, somebody made a David and Goliath reference, and I don't think it's because I'm a scrawny ass necessarily, but I felt like I definitely took that to heart. If I'm trying to compete, and I don't feel this way, but if I'm trying to compete with DJI and I'm trying to chase all the dope stuff they put in their stuff and make sure my stuff does it right after, I'm no better than Autel of 2016, first of all. That's just DJI copycat stuff. We're putting out an end user survey in a week, and that end user survey is going to be brought to our development team, and we have ways to like sort it out to make sure that we're getting the information from people that aren't just guessing or not just
Right.
clicking through.
It's not yes
And
and no.
that's one element that no drone manufacturer really does. And we're saying, give us data driven things that you want, and we're going to put that right into the machine of what pops out. You have the ability to put your fingerprints on this drone manufacturer in a way that no one else does. We're also doing focus groups to talk about these things. It's not a one-off like guy that you are really close to, and that's what we're designing to. We're trying to give everyone the opportunity to give us feedback. So our app being clunky, noted. Like you didn't need to tell me, but I know. And so is that something we focus on in the future? Is that something that more and more users other than Ken say your app's clunky? Okay, well that's what we do. But adding a tracking feature that DJI put in because they have 50 to 100 engineers that spent a whole summer trying to develop that, like, sorry, we just don't have that capacity. You, the user, can help us become that by getting on board with our vision and our like mission and what we're like, how we treat you. And the more and more people that are joining the pumpkin patch and getting an orange drone, the more and more resources we're going to have to bring on engineers that know how to do a lot of cool stuff and put it straight into the technology. But expecting us to be able to compete with 6,000 engineers, 14,000 employees, $2 billion revenue, like we're still small and we're just
Right.
using the resources that we have.
And I think that's something that goes by the end user's wayside, especially for pilots I talk to. I don't think they really correlate that. They just see the end result of what DJI provides, but they forget how far that company, hate to keep bringing them up, has come. If you look through each rendition of their drones, I mean, the evolution has evolved. Obviously, some companies evolve quicker than others. It's just one of those things that I think with more time, it's going to get better. When I look at the DroneScape, I see Autel as a solid, at least number 2 in the drone sphere. One would probably say maybe Skydio, but I think, again, Skydio's got a one-trick pony as of right now. Hate to say it. They only have, they have a one-trick pony that's not really dampened for all conditions as of right now. And, when you look at that, the affordability factor, you see, the different platforms and payloads that the Evo can house. I mean, you guys have really targeted the commercial side along with the consumer side, I think, pretty equally. I mean, there's some things that need to be flushed out. I saw that you guys released the Autel refresh, which basically allows, repairs and what have you. However, in looking over how Autel refresh works, this is one thing I will compare you to the competitors, because I think this is a clunky process. You're having the end user ship the units to you for inspection if they're an existing customer on the customer's dime. And then the return shipment is back again on the customer's dime. So this is somebody who has to insure their unit both ways, which is about $35 if you're going to do it for 40 for whatever the full cost of that drone would be. So 70, we'll call it $70 round trip from Bothell to wherever this person is, right?
Mm-hmm.
For you to inspect it, which now takes one of your engineers or one of your technicians to look over that drone, make sure everything's structurally sound, versus possibly putting in some sort of protocol check, logs, etc., to where you can, have the end user run through a set of self-diagnostic tests where you can say, okay, you're going to pay X, Y, and Z. You can even charge a premium for that. I bet you somebody would still pay that to add refresh after the fact. But then at that point, you can have an analyst, somebody who's not a technician, somebody can just review the logs and say yes or no, approve or deny whether or not you can have care refresh after you've already purchased it and had your drone for a period of time. Otherwise, it just seems clunky. Does that not seem clunky to have an end user down for, an exorbitant amount of time while they wait for their drone to be evaluated by you, and then it takes away your resources?
So
I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I'm gonna give you a number answer, which is the clearest thing I could do. 100% that sounds clunky. 100%.
Okay,
but
I just want to see what you thought.
No, well, this is what I think, and I'm tying multiple things together now because I think it's like this conversation is important. You're giving me a platform to do it. I'll use Usain Bolt. At one point, was a high school student, and he was running track, against other people. Right? Usain Bolt is the DJI, where the other kids just aren't gonna make it. They're just not going to win the race because there's someone that's that big out there. So when you compare programs, when you compare other things, like he's already won. Or if we're betting on horses, like you'll bet on DJI every race, unless you find out that DJI has been roiding or the horse has been roiding, and then we could likely win. So we're in this environment where we have limited resources and we have efforts to try to keep up with what the market's demanding. So like a refresh program. If you want everything that Autel does to be a straight carbon copy of what DJI does, then we're going to know it's impossible for us to shake that stigma. Okay. Now, a refresh program is not necessarily a product, and we can go in and be like, yo, it's a best practice. Apple has a refresh program.
Sure.
Everyone has a refresh program. Let's just use best practices. This instance that you're talking about, it's not something that I've spent any time over the last 4 weeks thinking about.
Maybe you weren't aware. Maybe you weren't aware of this.
And so I don't want to sound like I'm a guy that's negligent for what the company is, because I'm grinding.
No, you're not. But I think one of the things that Autel does well is they have a good dealer network, right? You have dealers all over the country that you can rely on. So you made an Apple reference. I think what would be a good idea, and you could either take this or leave this, is to say, hey, we have a dealer network. Instead of shipping it to us, why don't you go to one of our dealers so they can do a visual inspection on it? And you coordinate it with the visual dealer, the closest dealer. You say, hey, this is your closest dealer. You can either A, ship it to us for us to evaluate it, or B, you can walk into one of our dealer locations and have one of our dealers, inspect the drone.
Yeah.
And that way you're not having drones going over, and then that way you're sort of mitigating your resources across the board. I don't know. I mean, that's just, you take a page out of Apple's book, literally. They're probably one of the best to do it with, really.
So let's imagine that you and I are sitting around a table next week in Bothell, where I'm going to be with the team, and we're talking about refresh, and we're talking about how we make it better. And there's obviously history, there's reasons they got to this conclusion, and now we are trying to push against it and say it's not right for the customers, it's not the right program. I'm certain that we will have to come up with an argument of why this is best. And we're talking about refresh. We're not talking about chip shortages. We're not talking about new products. We're talking about something that is down the tiers of
Sure.
priorities.
It's something I just brought up because,
No, it's
somebody mentioned
important.
to me a while ago.
You're bringing it up to me for the first time. I'm having a conversation about refresh.
These are things you can almost fix now,
for sure.
These are
But
easy fixes, I would think.
you sent me some questions, and I go into these things being like, I'm not looking at the questions because I need to go into this not with what somebody geared me up with a bunch of information.
Sure.
Refreshes, I saw it on there. It's like, I don't know shit about refresh. Like, I know what a refresh program is, but I don't know what makes it clunky. And I want to be authentic and be like, this is how I feel. You're telling me that we are making the customer pay for shipping. It should be a paid
Right.
label that comes from Autel. That should be we should build that into part of the cost to have a refresh program. So if it's more expensive, like you're getting shipping from anywhere in the world to send a drone, and maybe that drone is fine and you're just kind of paranoid. Maybe we can't have unlimited paid shipping for something. So how do we reduce that? How do we mitigate that? You build it into the price of refresh, and you just figure you've already paid that shipping. We split the cost, whatever. After we evaluate it, we ship it back out to you. Like that's pretty typical. That's normal.
Right.
But yeah, but what you're talking about is building out our reseller network to do higher end, higher level services for our customers. This is the first time not the first time I've thought about that, because we talk about repair centers and things like that, and getting repair components out in the world. And there's certain things that we do in house and we feel more comfortable. Those are all going to be questions, but more so, how many of the resellers that are out there selling Autel products are selling more DJI products?
Well, you know what? That's one of those use case scenarios where you almost have to do something in a sense that when you buy a used car, right? You buy a car, let's say you go to BMW, it's certified, right? You know that the vast majority of vehicles that dealership are going to sell are BMWs, right? You almost have to have some sort of, and again, this is down the pipe, not super important right now, but you almost have to certify your dealers to make sure if they are representing your brand in any capacity, because anything they do could misrepresent Autel.
Right.
If they overcharge somebody or fuck somebody over on shipping, or some customer calls them with a concern and they don't like what they hear, essentially what's going to end up happening is they're going to be like, I bought an Autel product, and it sort of resonates in their mind. They don't necessarily correlate the fact that you bought your product from a independent reseller. Mm-hmm. Just like if I go to Verizon, I'm going into a corporate store because I know that I'm going to get a top-notch experience. You got to be careful, because there's people that parade themselves as a corporate store, but they're not a corporate store. It's a reseller. We see it all the time, even with other drone brands. So I think it's one of those things, you got to have a certification process, because you don't want just anybody freaking saying, hey, here's a check, send me drones, I'm going to sell them. Fuck that, because a crack dealer can sell your drones.
So let's go to the conundrum there. And I'm an OG reseller, right? I started I started the first brick and mortar, and I started one of the first DJI resellers in the country. I went to DJI and set up, reseller network for enterprise stuff. I've been working through resellers the whole time. So for me, the heart of what Autel does is this reseller. It's hard when it's there's 10 that do volume of anything. And most of the volume they're doing is DJI, because they have to pay people and they have to put food on the table. And DJI sells 10-1 to any other drone. So you need to have DJI stuff. For those people that have been Autel diehards, thank you for supporting us, and thank you for sticking by us. And we can make you, and we can make you a certified reseller of Autel technology and focus on just those. But now we're having a problem of geography. The guy that is in Huntsville, Alabama, his closest reseller is either in Dallas, Texas, or in Miami, Florida. What do? We try to get one that's closer to him. So now we bring someone on board that's like, look, I'm willing to jump on the Autel train. I don't have a ton of money, but I have passion. And we're like, hell yeah. Thanks for sticking with us. You want to be an Autel reseller for your community? We'll give you a chance. So that guy with a little bit of money has a little bit of stock, and you realize, he's not getting smart controllers. He's kind of a scrub. So you stop buying from him, and you go back to the same 5-10 resellers that are out there. We create a monopoly within our drone reseller network that makes it so it's not attainable or accessible for people all over this huge ass country to talk to someone. and they know that they have you in a bind, so that they're like, oh, sorry, your repair is going to be 6 weeks. What are you going to do? We have all this DJI stuff we're going to fix before Autel stuff. We're like, hey, well, it just would be better if you just sent it directly to Autel, and we can curate that experience.
And that makes sense. And when you say it like that, it makes sense. And that's why I think these examples are important for people to hear and understand as to the whys and whats. Because a lot of times, again, there is no transparency in this industry. There really isn't.
Mhm.
Nobody is coming out and saying the things that we're hearing now. And I bet you a lot of people, sure, people want to know when this is coming out, when this is and that's coming out, and why this feature is not here. But I think there's like now problems that are more important to understand the whys to,
And
versus what could happen in the future. Because I don't give a shit about the future. I care about what's happening right now.
And you asked me a question that I gave you just off the top response, right? Like from
Mm.
the soul of what I've seen happen, where there's people I've worked with for 5-6 years in the reseller space where they're like, hey, I want to be able to do Dragonfish stuff. I want to demo Dragonfish. And it's like, it's so complicated, man. And like, I know you, I know what you've done, I know your body of work. And it's like, for the one-off opportunities that you have, this is a big undertaking. It's a
Right.
distraction almost. And for you to be able to post on Instagram or Facebook that you got a Dragonfish, it's not worth it, bro. It's the same thing with smart controllers. We shipped out we're getting them in batches because all the firmware needs to be upgraded so that we
Yeah, I
can send
know.
them to customers.
I
So there's some
found that out the hard way.
right. So we're shipping some of those out. And like for the people that got the early ones, like just by when they place the PO or how many, I don't know what,
Right.
like there was reasons that they were sent out for them to take the opportunity to post that they have stock that is already allocated to customers just to like rub it in other people's faces. It's like, yo, we got to be better than this. Like when
I agree.
when we're at a demo and a drone crashes, like, and it's, I was at a demo and a 3DR drone crash. So rest in peace 3DR on manufacturing. Like if I'm celebrating, if I'm like, doing a dance because someone else like fails, why? Or in inverse, when I succeed and like get something, do I really need to like do a touchdown dance, or can I act like I've been there before? Some of the resellers in this world put other resellers down. Some of the influencers in this world put other influencers down, and it's not because of the
I'm
body of
guilty of
their
that.
work, but
I'm
but
fucking
I've
guilty of
heard
it. But I
but
only
I've
do
heard
it when it's warranted. When it's
I've heard your
warranted.
stuff, and it's like when people sell out for sure. Like when
I'm gonna
people
call
are
somebody out when it's warranted.
100%, and I value that. That's transparency. That's like take me or leave me, and I feel like I'm that person too as a
I look
manufacturer.
at it like this. I mean, I work closely with a reseller, DroneWorks, right? And I feel that, it's not a competition. I feel like that there's enough of clients and customers across this country for everybody.
Mm,
There's and every one person's personality is going to mesh better with somebody else's, right? There's a salesperson for everybody, essentially. Just like there's a lot of people that don't like how I deliver my content. There is a channel for everybody. And just like there is a drone brand for everybody out there. Some people are going to like what Autel does and willing to stick through, sort of the growing pains, if you will. And then there's some that just want that instant gratification and they don't want to understand the lineage of how they got to that point or what goes in behind that. I think there's important things that happen behind the scenes, but I think ultimately, for the most part, I think the dealer network that sells Autel, I think for the vast majority of them, they really want to see that it succeeds. I mean, because if you
for
guys
sure.
succeed, we succeed.
For sure. And I think that everyone that's paying attention to this needs to realize that like I am like Autel's products technology before I joined was good. Like it was there. But now there's this new engine. There's new people that are coming on board. I mean, John McBride is a guy, Drone Jesus, that he's an acquired taste for
So,
some.
so
Huh?
let's talk about Drone
Oh,
Jesus though,
okay,
because
sure.
that was an interesting acquisition. I mean, and I don't want to boast his ego, but he's sort of, and a lot of people like in the consumer realm, they may not know who he is, but in the commercial space, he's somewhat legendary. He grew RMUS to what it is at every commercial event. He was, sort of like, hey, is he there? Is he there? Um, I remember watching him way back when Bo Lorenzen used to do his shows and testing out the latest and greatest quads that weren't even known. I mean, he was at the forefront of a lot of that. So how did that acquisition actually occur? Because that's a huge, huge pull from a training perspective and just
Yeah.
information as a whole.
So what I envisioned is that Autel has an ability to be a magnet, and the leadership at Autel has not been that magnetic of personalities. They haven't
Right.
been people that are trying to suck people into this brand. And we're
Sure.
trying, and my mentality was coming in and becoming the CEO of this company at age 35 with only a pedigree of like Intel work, and then I did some drone stuff, but it's not like I have this crazy background of running huge teams and making big decisions. What I do have is the ability to be real, the ability to connect with people. I say that my black book within the drone industry, especially the commercial drone industry, is second to none. And so I then say, all right, let me build a dream team. So I go out and I'm like, hey, John, I know you're happy with what you're doing, but if you ever want an opportunity to like put your fingerprints on the industry in a way that you can't do as a reseller, let me know. We have a conversation about that, and it just comes down to that. I don't expect John to be anyone but who he is. He does not want to sell out. He doesn't want to tell people what's not true. He
He's a
wants to
no
say,
fluff guy.
right, I just flew an Evo 2 and the app is clunky. That is coming from John McBride as an Autel employee
Love it.
going forward. And that's like when you give someone that mandate to to put your integrity first and be a brand in yourself. I'm telling the guys in customer service, I'm telling the guys in repairs, like, be a brand in yourself. Be the guy that people contact on like separately and say, hey, you're my guy. Like, can you take care of me? And tell them yes every time, because you are going to springboard yourself in life by stepping up to the plate and doing what others won't or what others can't. John McBride is not a guy that was born out of wealth. John McBride was given nothing. John McBride has built this brand around himself because he stood by who he was. Take him or leave him. Same thing as you, and I'd say same thing as me. I'm not.
I think that's important.
And
I
so
think that's important.
we're bringing on people like that. I mean, not a lot of people know Bobby Sakaki. He just joined from White Fox.
That never heard of Bobby Sakaki. He's got a great name.
Great name.
Sounds amazing. Sounds like it should be like a wine or something.
Bobby's a guy that will start talking to me about technology, and I go, Bobby, stop. That's your job to know that stuff. If you tell me, I just like, he's a technical guy.
So
John's a training guy.
You guys, is everybody at the Autel office, or is everybody sort of still working remote? I mean, do you find it more beneficial? Like, I know before it seemed like everybody had to be at the office, and the reality is it's not a huge office.
Right. It's really not.
It's not a huge place. I mean,
Right.
it's a rather small facility. I mean, do you find it beneficial having people working remotely and being able to sort of, do things at a moment's notice, sort of a Minuteman perspective? Does that work out for you all?
COVID was a sweet thing for us that we were able to retool in our brains, like how much you can do from home.
Right.
And I think that we would have still had that challenge if COVID didn't happen, where everyone was expected to be in this office. But truthfully, I've been working remote for long enough that I'm in Salt Lake City, where I'm from. John McBride is about a 40-minute drive. Bobby Sakaki is about a 25-minute drive. Our head marketing guy is like a 20-minute drive. There's other people that we're looking to bring on board. So Salt Lake is kind of like a second hub.
Okay. Cool.
But like the sales guys, I'll give you some breaking news, and a lot of the consumer users won't necessarily know. But Troy Hiddle, who was at SenseFly for like 7 years, is their GM, went to Measure, and then they turned into Ag Eagle. He's coming aboard on Monday. Troy, in the industrial space, knows everything about fixed wing, everything about survey and mapping, has a lot of government contacts. Like, he's a big hitter. John McBride's a big hitter. There's people that we're pulling in as a magnet to Autel that you've never seen happen before.
I've never heard of a lot of these people, but a lot of them are a commercial figure, essentially. So I guess too, what are you guys doing, as far as, and I hate to do it because I understand, like, if I looked at things and I look at things from my software perspective, I don't sell to consumers. I sell to commercial facilities, and that's my bread and butter, and that's what makes money. So what are you guys, obviously you need consumers, you need the hobbyist side of things. Again, the hobbyist side is sort of what generates that hype around things, because there's sort of a little more fanfare than you get from the commercial guys. The commercial guys are a little bit more utilitarian. Are you doing something to hype the side of the consumer? Because you really haven't had anything, really. There really wasn't anything there.
Tell me what makes an airframe industrial?
I have no fucking idea, dude.
Okay,
I could use
it's
technical terms and
it's a
probably nobody
payload.
would idea.
The
Okay.
payload. What you do with the data is really what makes it an
Okay.
industrial payload. So the Inspire 1 was a videography platform until you put a thermal
Sure.
camera on it, and then it was a police and
Right.
firefighters wet dream, right? So we make Evo 2 as a consumer product, and we make it
Sure.
as an industrial product.
Right. And I get that. But I guess what I'm saying is, as far as like, an advertising
Yeah,
perspective, is getting people to get hyped about the Evo 2.
there's
We're 2 years out, I'll bet, basically at this point, since it first came out at CES,
yeah,
2020.
there's more coming.
Okay.
There's more coming in the year of 2021 that is specifically targeted at your audience.
That's why I
We
ask.
we have a pretty hardcore, robust roadmap between now and the end of the year on both the consumer side specific and on the industrial side.
Okay.
Industrial, and so if you look at the top drone manufacturers, barring DJI, Parrot, Skydio, Teal, let's just use those three. They started as consumer products, realized that's really, 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 really hard. Tried to
It
get
is.
tried to get in Blue SUAS so they could go straight to government, straight to federal buys from the army, and then they realized, oh, this is really, 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 really hard, and so they're like industrial. We'll put our drone that we developed with 10 engineers in 12 months' time out to the industrial market. It was irresponsible. But the consumer space is really hard because DJI makes such good stuff and nobody has these limitations, these rules about, where it's manufactured and,
So you're going to be both. You're making a product that is bidirectional, essentially. It is the, I mean, it can go both ways, quite literally.
yeah, but I think that what I'm saying is we're actually making consumer products. We're one of the only drone manufacturers left that it still makes something that is specifically to the consumer that you will see in the year of 2021.
Okay.
Is it the next Evo? No, it is not an Evo. Like it's not. If there's Evo 2 owners, they might want this. I think they
Do
would
you
want
think
this.
you think the lineage of the Evo, you think that's ready to be retired? You think something is ready to be refreshed? Like say, hey, we don't need an Evo 3. We don't need to keep this, this facade going. We could have
The
something that's completely new.
the the build of a foldable drone is still very, very much in demand.
Yeah.
So it's just getting the things right that aren't necessarily right on an
Okay.
Evo.
That's
Now,
fair enough.
there is stuff that's already in the pipeline, already coming. Like there's very little that we can do to tweak it. The end user survey that we're putting out next week, you tell us, like, how important is it to have these features? You'll see it on a survey. Like you'll see the stuff that we're thinking about, and you'll say, here's your priorities. You, the users, will say, here are your priorities in a data-driven way. It's better than Randall being like, oh, but I talked to this guy that really likes this, or I was on
This is one person.
I was on a podcast and a bunch of guys were asking about this feature. It's like I want it in a data-driven way that it helps us have justification of why we made those decisions. And when we put out that product, you'll know that it's kind of like the FUBU of drones. For us, by us. You said you wanted it. This is what we built. You tell me of another drone manufacturer that's doing that. No one.
That's literally the best response I've heard in a while. All right, off topic here. What are you exactly drinking? No, seriously, because I saw a lemon. I saw the whole shit and caboodle.
Yeah,
the lemon's
so
now in the glass. So what
this
is
is
it?
the most. So I told my father-in-law to make me the most annoying drink possible because
That's
of
really
me coming
annoying.
on here. Yeah. So you said that somebody drank a Corona on here and you found that offensive. I'm a non-drinker in my entire life, so I said make me something annoying. So this is a spiced turmeric lemonade, and I was
Okay.
like, I gotta get it in a special glass, and I gotta have like a lemon slice in it.
So
To
there's
just make it
literally
like,
zero alcohol into that.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're basically like the Tom Brady of CEOs of the drone industry, basically.
Is that a thing?
Brady doesn't drink. He
I
doesn't
didn't
drink at
know
all.
that. I didn't know that. He
He
dances
doesn't
like he
drink.
drinks.
Yeah, but he doesn't drink at all, man.
No way.
He doesn't drink. And maybe
Yeah,
that's why he's so damn successful. And maybe that's why
I'm
you
so
at
damn youthful.
35 have way more hair than I have at 36. I don't know. It could be. I'm
I don't know
piecing
if
everything together.
hair growth is related to the amount of
I don't know,
alcohol
man.
consumed, but I think that it goes in line with everything I'm saying about like accountability. That's where
Sure.
the non-drinking thing comes from for me. Is
So
that
I dig it though.
no one digs it. Everyone hates
I
it.
mean, I don't envy you because
Right.
as an entertainer, you drink, it's socially. I'll get an Uber going home. It's fine. Um, but you know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's one of those things. So let's do a little bit of a rapid round here because I have questions posed from the community and we can do it just like this. We ask the question. If you don't like it, you can just simply say, Ken, fuck you. It's fine. We're on to the next.
I'll answer every single question you toss at me.
Perfect. So here's one. Michael Bell, she asks, why does their support for older products stop when they come out with a new one? I think this should be pretty easy for you.
I mean, there is end of life statements that we put out telling you when it's going to stop, and we always adhere to those. But eventually, you have to change your manufacturing and change your tooling, and you run out of stuff. So you plan as best as you can for how much stuff you need. Eventually, that's going to stop.
Okay. We got a guy named Blank. He says, ask him about NFC system and how they plan on implementing that. Well, that's a pretty good one.
NFC, no fly zone.
NFC,
okay.
NFC, no fly zone.
I thought you said NFC, and I thought football, and I thought Tom Brady, and I was like, what?
It could be other things too. It depends on where you're out on the internet.
We have no intentions on taking the route of forcing no-fly zones through our products. There's two countries in the world that we are doing something with no-fly zones. Those are China and Japan for reasons that are government enforced. We're not pushing no-fly zones anytime soon.
Okay, and then we got one from Zach. He asked, will they be developing a smart controller? Zach's not been really here in the real world lately. And he says, and what about ADSB? So let me answer Zach's first question. Zach, they've already developed a smart controller. What about ADSB?
I can say that I don't know our plans for ADSB.
That's fair enough.
I don't know, but it's not that we don't have people that know. There's Bobby Sakaki, the guy with a good name. That is something that he can answer.
And then I've got about 25 questions for this. People want to know when you're going to build a sub 250 gram drone.
You mean when we're going to build it or when we're going to design it?
Either or. You choose. Dealer's choice.
I would say stay tuned.
Fair enough. I said, some of these questions, it's just like, people got to understand when you're building a drone, you're running an operation like Autel or any drone manufacturer. It's a game of poker. You obviously can't.
No.
You can't give too much away. Oh no, fuck no, it's not. We're playing baccarat.
No, I'll be straight up. Like, I mean, I'm trying to be real. Like, if you read it in the news that it's important to have a 250 gram drone, you're not alone.
I personally don't give a shit because I have to register it. I don't want a 250 gram anything. I don't give a shit like that. I'm going to register it, and whatever comes down the pipe, it comes down the pipe.
But if you got an itch, especially an itch that's that loud, that many people have the same itch, we're going to get you that ointment. And
there's so many people that believe it's a 256 gram, and an Evo Mini is what I keep hearing. An Evo Mini is what they want there to be.
Well, I would say that if whatever the customer wants, the customer gets when it comes to Autel going forward.
I like that. So there's a sense of optimism for some. And then let's see, we'll go to John E5. He asked, with arguably some of the better tech innovations, stronger features, and greater offerings, Autel still doesn't have the brand awareness and penetration of DJI.
Well, obviously, we don't have the duration nor the marketing budgets nor the huge office in California just for making marketing content. But what we do have is Randall Warnas trying his best to serve the people that he's been serving for 7 years.
One person.
John McBride, Troy Hiddle, my boys like coming in, and there's more of that. It's the magnet that I was talking about. And if you look at the Autel logo and you imagine little white tips, it's a magnet, baby. And we're just pulling people in. We're going to be bringing in the best people in the drone industry that serve you.
I like this. I like where you're going with this. I like that you're building a team that you're comfortable with, essentially, and you're saying, hey, you're almost like you're building the Miami Heat of the 2000s here. It's sort of like that. Yeah,
I'd put my squad up against DJI squad any day when it comes to how much they actually know about the industry, care about the industry, interact with the industry. I'll put my shit up against any CEO in the drone industry, how much they care about their customers, any day of the week.
Dude, well, I personally, I'll speak for myself and others. I like where this is going. I like the candidness. I already knew what I was getting into when you responded with, I'm effing stoked to be on the show.
Right.
It's just like, I don't think people understand, like when you're talking to most CEOs, you got to be sort of prim and proper, but we've always had pretty candid conversations in the past when you were with Fleer. And I like to see that sort of passion and candidness is bleeding over into what you're doing here today with Autel, because I think that's important. I think that passion and that sort of edginess is what you need to thrust yourself further in this industry, because people are tired of the PC drone world and just the very sterile, non-communicative, transparent environments that we don't really have. We don't really have that from all the brands. It's just sort of like, it's very robotic in a sense. And it's cool to see a more human side to something that isn't so very human. I don't know how to
Yeah.
put it any other way.
No, I appreciate that, man. And it's like, I mean, if you've known me for any amount of time, this is who I am every single day of my life. The fact that I'm a CEO of the second largest drone manufacturer in the world means that you have the opportunity to reach me in a way that everyone has the ability to communicate in that way. When you're a VC funded guy that is doing the Silicon Valley game and his CEO job is to go get VC funding, like that's not a world I understand. I grew up in the hood. I grew up to a single father who was a plumber. Like, I'm a kid that was the first kid to ever graduate or even go to college in my entire lineage. I'm the guy that tried to make something of himself, and I'm sitting in the seat, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty warm, but I still haven't changed who I am. I'm still just grinding for the people. And so I hope that comes across, that if you were sitting here and you wanted to try to change yourself to be the CEO of Autel, you're making a mistake. Instead, we should all just be ourselves and cheer for the guy that's going to try to make this industry better.
Well, I'm all on board for whatever you're going to do, whatever the next step is, whatever it is that you're going to push out and roll. Hey man, like I said before the stream even started, I asked you a question. I said, "Are you excited?" And you said, "Yeah, I'm excited to be here." I said, "No. Are you excited for what you're doing?" Because I think it's important that I saw it in your face. When you first took over, like, it's a big deal, man. It's a big deal. You're the youngest CEO of this company. You're one of the youngest CEOs in this space to begin with, and you have a $1 million Ferrari essentially that you can navigate any which way you want. I think it's pretty fucking cool, and I want to thank you for taking the time out, coming on the show. I know there's probably a ton of questions so many people have asked, but I'm sure in the coming weeks you guys will put out more information, more publications. That end user survey is going to be coming out soon, so people hopefully can take part in that.
Yo, dog, if you want to help me push that in any way, and I'm not asking for anything that is uncomfortable for you, but if people want to participate,
it's not uncomfortable. I don't give it. I do what I want.
We're gonna hit up as many people as we possibly can to get their feedback in. We're doing Evo giveaways and stuff to try to help make people feel like it's actually worth spending 10 minutes. But if you want to send me an email, I'm gonna take that email and forward it to somebody that can digest what you're asking for. If you answer this end user survey, you're truly just giving us exactly what we need in the format we need it.
Two more questions on the rapid round that I just saw come through that I ignored. Two things. One, remote ID. Any idea, or are you guys sort of a wait and see right now?
It's a wait and see right now.
Okay,
no commitment either way.
What about KML exports?
Say what?
KML exports? Or it's for the cameras through thermal imaging. Okay.
For thermal imaging?
Yeah, KML. Yes, KML exports. That's what they're saying. I don't know. I'm assuming it's something KML. Okay.
Hey, smart people.
We'll toss that question over to McBride.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's
I think
McBride question. KM import. They're saying KML import. Really, I believe that is going to be something. If, for instance, electrical company is going to give you coordinates. Could be a pole, fixture or something. I believe it's geology shit, basically. Well, exactly. Thank you, Jared. That's going to be a John McBride question all day.
I like that people know things that I don't know, and I like that I have a team of people that I trust to answer.
But you don't have to know everything. You just got to be the charismatic guy behind the scenes answering the tough questions. You only have to get 90% right.
what I need to be is the guy that will stand in front of a tidal wave for his customers. And that's what I was at DJI. And DJI is a big tidal wave. And when you tell HQ with air quotes that you are disagreeing with something that they're saying, it's a big, it's a lot of swimming
Big
after
ask.
that. And so now I'm in the situation where I'm the guy, and you'll never hear my team say, let me go ask HQ. Let me go talk to someone else. We just make the decisions here in the United States for our customers, and we don't have some scapegoat to give you some bullshit answer that makes you wait for 2 weeks and we hope you forget. That's not what you're going to deal with at Autel. And if you're dealing with that, you email me, Randall at autelrobotics.com, and you tell me the problems you're having. I'll solve them, like straight up. That's how it has to be.
There you go. That's it. I mean, what a way to go out. So if you guys have any questions, again, I'll have Randall's email down below if you want to email him any of your questions, concerns.
It's gonna get crazy.
He'll answer them. I mean, try it. And if he doesn't answer it, drop a comment in the screen. Say, Randall didn't answer my question. But here's the thing: you got to be methodical with your question. If you ask him when X and Y is coming out, they're not going to fucking answer that. So be methodical.
I'll respond.
He's going to respond,
but
I'm not
won't
going to answer for him.
No. I'll tell you what it is. Don't send me multiple paragraphs, because those emails are the ones that I'm like, I got to do that later. I got to do that later. I got to do that later. And then I have
the same way, man. Responding to
200 paragraphs of like, I love your product. I love you guys, but here's my issue. It's just like, ask me the question that you want and I will respond right away. I've been on the job for 4 weeks. In my first day, I had 150 emails in my first.
How the fuck did
day.
they get your email that quick? That's what I want to know.
Because I go on things and say, hey, here's my email, or I go on
Stop
Autel
doing
Pilot.
that shit. You got enough of shit. Stop doing that shit.
Hell no. Dude,
all right, he's going to keep doing it, and you guys are going to keep emailing him. That's it. So it's also, what is it? It's John at Autel Robotics. I don't want to do that.
Jay McBride at autelrobotics.com.
I don't want to do that. He's going to send me hate
single person of us. Yo, if you want to get to the head of our customer support, it's Alejandro, it's A. Velasquez at autelrobotics.com.
Oh, shit. Don't do that. He's just going to be like, hell no. And what the hell?
This is what changes this industry, is when someone's like, we are individuals trying to help you, and I can't lift it all by myself, and John can't lift it all by himself.
Can't.
And if we're getting to the point where we're at capacity where we can't support you, our customers, then we get more people, and they're people that will be trustworthy and that will care about you, and we'll just keep building this damn empire the right way. If we have enough customers to make my inbox a problem, then that's a good problem to have. And keep filling it up.
There you go.
Don't troll me though. I don't deserve trolling.
No, don't troll him. And on that note, that's it. I mean, Randall just had the mic drop, so that's it.
Hell yeah, dude.
Guys, thanks for staying on the show as long as you have, watching the whole thing. We're at an hour and 7 minutes. Randall, thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, sir.
You're always welcome back. And we'll see you next time, dude.
Sounds good, man. Take it easy. Have a good night,
see
everyone.
You, brother.
See you.
Peace. Alrighty. Well, that's it. That's all I have for you. It's amazing to have any sort of CEO or anybody, spend any amount of time at all for anything. I'm going to go ahead and I got to tell you, I've drank so much beer. I have got to take the biggest fucking piss. I'm going to throw the intro on. And if by any chance I can piss in the matter of 2 minutes time that this intro takes, I may be back and we'll field some questions.
I want you, I need you, you got me right where you want me, baby, ooh, yeah, and who knew what you do, could stop me cold in my tracks, yeah, why don't you get up off of these high hypotheses, I'm not Socrates, I'm not trying to be cool, I think it's
I drank way too much beer. Holy shit. I drank way too much beer. All right. Yeah, I definitely need a 3D printed catheter. All right. Let's go through some of these questions because we got a lot of them. I tried to answer everybody's question the best again. Again, you got to understand that sometimes when you're dealing with questions in an interview like this, you want to be a little bit different than what you've witnessed in the past. And one of the things I said to Randall before we did the show was that I wanted to keep it informal. I just wanted it sort of to be like two buddies sort of chatting it back and forth. And I think we sort of did that. I think, we went off on some tangents, which I think are good. Hopefully you saw the rawness from him. A very, very different interview. Hopefully you got a shit ton of information from this. Something to take away. I mean, it was definitely, I thought, was a good stream. All in, I think it was good. Some good takeaways, even for myself, in dealing with, like I said, dealing with the dealer specifically, some of the things that Randall said resonate with me. And I'm going to be implementing some of my own changes with the way we operate things, specifically. So I think it's cool to see stuff like this actually happen and to be able to hear it from the horse's mouth. This is a first. Like, I've been bitching about this very same thing from Autel from a long, long time. The communication has always sucked. And I've always felt like it was very sterile. Tonight was the first time that I can honestly say, in supporting this brand and flying, Autel, I was sort of like, oh shit, this is different. And that's a good feeling. And hopefully that continues to roll on. So makes you want to go work for fucking Autel. All right. Anyways. All right. That's it. You guys like the Orange Theory shirt? It's going to be in the links below if you like that. It's an old shirt. I brought it back because, I figured what the hell for tonight. Eric Hill asked, how do you like the smart controller? I like it. It's interesting. I'll be releasing that video tomorrow night. So tomorrow night, if you are a channel member, you'll be able to witness and see that video first. I'll be doing a special live stream for Brew Crew members. So if you're part of the channel membership, after the video airs, I'll be doing a one-off live stream for members only, in which you can partake in the stream, get your questions answered, interact. We'll talk about the whole shit and thing. It's going to be a good time. So there you go. So I see there is a shit ton of channel members currently. And if there was anybody that super chatted that asked the question, I didn't get to the question, let me know. I apologize. There was just a lot to really keep up with during the stream. Like I said in the beginning, I really wanted to make sure that I dedicated the time to answering the questions and being attentive. But towards the end, I'm not going to lie, the beer just hit me. I had to take a piss, and there was no Paul to hold down that spot to sort of hold it a little longer. But that's fine. That's good. When am I giving away my Autel landing pad? I still have one. I didn't give it away. Yet. I don't know. SJ Owens, thank you so much for the super chat. I apologize, man. If I didn't answer your question or get your question answered, or I did, I'm not 100% sure. There was a shit ton of questions flying all the way around the board. I tried to do a rapid around at the end there. Either way, if you're tuning in this late, phenomenal stream. I don't know. I'm probably just going to leave it up as it is. I think it's, I always knew he was a cool guy back when he was with Fleer. And I remember my first interaction with Randall. He messaged me on Instagram after a video I posted. And it was probably right after then I was like, all right, this is pretty fucking crazy that, the director of UAV for Fleer is messaging me about this video. I thought that was pretty cool. So this was about a year and a half ago. So cool guy, very cool guy. Yeah, there you go. So that's everything. I don't know what else to say. Felt like tonight was an amazing show. If you will talk more about smart controller stuff later this week, I've got a banger of a video coming up. So I've got a banger of a video. I think I tried to take the most impartial approach to reviewing that I can. You know what, Lon? I will actually say you were on your best behavior tonight, which I thought was actually shocking. Yeah, so I did ignore. I didn't ask that question about the Evo 2 V2, and I figure, you heard what he said, and I believe him when he says that he'll stand behind if there's something that you would want to upgrade to, and as long as he's there, he'll make good on that. I really believe that. Like I said, I can't imagine what his inbox looks like. I'm sure he got a shit ton of messages, when he took over. Like I said, he's been on several shows, so he's probably been tossing out his email quite a bit. And then to throw yourself into a consumer ring, God help him. That's all I'll say. All right. KML is a mapping format. And he was pretty candid that's a John McBride sort of handling. John would handle those things, and that's why he brought on those types of people to handle those natures. Auteur photography, he did say that was correct. It will only work with version 1 Evo. So if you have a version 1 and you buy a version 1 smart controller, it will work. However, if you decide later on down the road that you wanted to buy something else, that he would make good on that. So, no, don't email him dick pics. Don't do that. God damn it. Don't do that shit. Exactly. And to be honest, Lon says it best. What's happened in the past is not his fault, and all he can do is move forward from here. All right. There you go. That's it for the show. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button. Tell me how much you like the show or not. And yeah, there you go. That's all I got. I'm tired. 10:16. I'm going to go home, drink another beer, and maybe bang my wife. Have a good night, guys. Stay original.
I want you.